Hi, I'm Jessica Pelkey. I'm a PAC mentor, and I'm going to be your guide for this webinar, How to Provide Support When Physical Resistance Presents. What I've done is I've gone ahead and divided this webinar into some chapters. I'm going to pull up just a visual here of those chapters. So the first one, what can I do to prevent physical escalation? Second one, how do we manage care in sensitive areas? That can really be challenging. The third one, I want out, I need out, let me out. And the fourth one, am I really being person focused or task focused? So thank you for joining us on this webinar. Let's go ahead and get started.
I hope everybody's having a good day, but what we're going to do right now is talk a little about this idea of physical aggression. And I'm going to have individuals, Corey, I'm going to have you call out names because you can see everybody. I want you to come up with one or two reasons or one or two situations in which you have been very concerned about the possibility of having someone living with dementia become physically aggressive with you. If you don't want to say it out loud, you can actually type it in the chat. So you can either unmute or type, but we're trying to gather some information about the situations you have, because what we want to do is respond to your situations, not situations in general, because it turns out that it's actually fairly complicated to work through this in some ways. So Corey, if you want to give people sort of some guidelines here of who's out there that maybe we should have them share something. Maybe you can see hands or such like.
I was thinking that when you end up in a situation with somebody who really doesn't see a need to do something, does not want to do something, and sees no point, I very easily get drawn into basically the argument. And we have gotten into physical.
Mm-hmm. So when you see value and purpose in doing something and the other person does not, and it's a fairly important thing to you, and as you see it, to the person's physical, mental, or emotional well-being. I mean, you think there's a really important reason to do this thing, to engage in this activity. Your brain is so convinced that it's so important right then that they do something or they don't do something. So I'm going to ask you, is it that they need to do something or they need to not do something? Which one classically is it?
It's been both, but I was thinking of trying to get him to do something at this point.
Okay. So you're trying to get another person in another body to do the thing you feel like they really need to do, and what they are showing you and telling you is that they don't see any need to do that. And so what ends up happening is you find yourself standing your ground and pushing your agenda to a place where they feel like the only thing they can do is physically shove you, push you, or hit you to get you to stop. Is that fair? Okay. All right, so that's a situation. Is it usually around bathing or something else? Changing clothes or something else?
Self-care, like changing a brief or walking to get rid of excess energy.
Okay, so it's either because they have a very brief on. It's drenched, it's been on for several hours or almost a whole day. Days. So you're finding it on, hasn't been on for days. And you know that there's skin breakdown that's going to be happening underneath it because they have pretty strong urine because they are not high quality of hydrating themselves. So you know that hydration is also an issue. So it sort of accumulates in your brain. You know all these things. And as you know all these things, you become really committed because you can't see another way around it. You've tried all the strategies you know, and you're still feeling like, I've got to do something. I can't ignore this. It's not safe to ignore this. Okay. Cool. Because you're absolutely right. It isn't safe to ignore it. And so if we're going to have to do something with someone who truly doesn't believe we need to do something, and yet we've gotten to a place, if we don't do it, it's called neglect. I mean, it is truly neglecting this human being that's there because they don't get any of the cues they should be getting. They don't have any ability to pick up on those cues. Either they don't care or they can't get it, one way or the other. And so if we are to try to do something at this point, if that's the case, better have a backup because it's just me versus you. And that becomes higher risk because at that point, I need to acknowledge I'm going to do something to you. It is for you, but you are not going to accept it. And if that's the case, I must get a backup because otherwise I am basically setting myself up for you to strike out at me and me to have to either defend or hold you so I can do this. And if I'm holding you, I can't do this. I can do either the task or the support, but I can't do both because you don't have 4 arms and you will need 4 arms and 2 skillful hands and 2 strong body parts to be able to help someone who's in that really acute state of distress. And what might be happening, to be quite honest, is their brain might be so distressed by being so uncomfortable that they don't process any more incoming data because they're actually so uncomfortable, they're in pain. And because a human in pain can't take in any more data, they're trapped inside the shell, but rather than an immobile shell, it's a moving shell. And so they're out in the world moving around, but they are not processing any external data. Every piece of data becomes a sense of being attacked. So if that's the case, I've got to figure out how to keep them safe while we do this thing that must be done so that all of us stay safe. Because otherwise, there is a very high risk that somebody will get hurt. And I will actually become more aggressive than I want to be because I feel at risk myself, and I am at risk myself. So those are situations truly where you must have a third party and you've got to work out your details before you decide to do this. So you step way back and make a plan and then a plan B and then a plan C before you move forward. But no human beings should try to take on another human being that can't process data coming from that human being. If you do that, it's high risk that you are going to become or will be abused. You'll become abusive or you'll be abused because you're trying to match and deal with a person who has no ability to negotiate in that moment. And so it's very high risk. So that's a real important one, Rachel. And that is like one direction we might need to go if in fact this has gotten to this place. What I will say is one of the reasons it gets to that place is we've gotten into a habit and routine of not doing a lot of physical contact in a regular way that makes sense to the person so that the person gets so used to not having that contact that when the contact is attempted, they view it as an attack immediately. And the problem is, do this with your hands. How long has this already been going on? They've been living solo. They've been on their own. Nobody's been the boss of them. Nobody tells them what to do. Nobody touches them. They are an isolated individual who has been in isolation for quite some time. The only time they come out is maybe to be a little verbal, but other than that, they've hidden themselves from the outside world for a long period of time. They've always been very private. They've always been incredibly secretive about their private self. They didn't share. They don't tend to be people who've been very open about things. So when dementia hits, this is like boom, 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 and they build a wall. And then at the end, we're trying to figure out how to care for this fragile being inside this shell in this wall. And they would prefer to be dead, frankly. I mean, as far as they're concerned, better dead than here. if this is what's going to happen. And so it's really challenging because we can't seem to find some common ground for us to enjoy one another. So that's a very risky situation that can become dangerous just like that. Because you think they'll pull their punch. You think they will only struggle a little bit, but they actually become really overtly very aggressive. And unfortunately, if they go through this multiple people becoming aggressive back versus two people with control getting this done, this is a very different experience for them. In one case, we have one person being in partnership with them and acknowledging everything they're saying and feeling and experiencing, and the other one simply getting the task done as quickly and inadvertently as possible, knowing that the person doesn't like it, doesn't want it, but we're moving through it. It's getting done. And that together, the two people acknowledge, I didn't like that. You didn't like it. That was not okay. So we share that experience with lots of strength and hand-under-hand bilateral assist to tolerate the task. It's an unpleasant task. We both acknowledge it, and we don't like that it happened. I'm sorry, Rachel, we just didn't like it. And we acknowledge that. And so that third party is the task performer who stays out of the way, just gets it done, keeps their head down. And the partner is the one that's experiencing the frustration and the irritation and the ugliness with the person living with. But you've got to have incredible control over both parties to allow that to happen. What classically happens is we call in a gang, and the gang is all sort of mishmashed together without, we're just going to do this and we're going to do a lot of holding, but the holding is often a position of subjugation rather than control and support. And so what ends up happening is the person feels violated. And so as soon as people start moving toward them the next time, the aggression starts on the person's part because they think they're going to be attacked again.
Hey again, it's Jessica. Let's go ahead and do a summary of Chapter 1. So, what can I do to prevent physical escalation? So, the first thing we need to be able to do is to recognize that the person we're trying to support isn't seeing the same value and purpose that we do for the care that we're trying to provide. We need to be able to step back and try to figure this out. We've got to make a plan, maybe a plan B, and maybe even a plan C. We want to bring in backup. We want to have somebody support us to decrease the risk that things are going to go south. So, in that case, one person is going to stay in partnership, connected with the person who's receiving care. The second person is going to simply do the task quickly and efficiently. We want to be reflecting back the words and the language that we're hearing from the person and mirroring back some of the emotion and what they're showing us so that they can see we're on their side. We can really be on their side and move through this together as opposed to butting heads. We also may want to consider using hand under hand, maybe even double hand under hand, in order to have the person feel as if they're doing the care with us rather than us doing it to them, but also providing some hand pumps or some proprioception pressure on a joint. Could be the shoulder or could be somewhere else, another joint, and maybe even some deep pumps there as well, so that it tricks the brain into paying to that sensation and less attention to the uncomfortable or distressing sensation of care. All right, that's Chapter 1. Let's see what comes next.
So Corey, do we have any other comments that we want to bring up? Thanks, Rachel, for sharing that.
Two. One of them from Marcy said when she was trying to take sutures out of someone's face.
Yeah. So if you would do this, wipe your hand around your face in some fashion. This part of a human body is a part that we are very particular about who comes in here and who messes right there. We're also really particular about right out here on the tips of our fingers, of who messes with the tips of our fingers. We are also incredibly particular about who messes with our toes. People forget how intolerant of people messing around our toes we are until you try to do something with somebody's toenails, and you'll find out very quickly how aggressive somebody can get if you don't have good positioning and good support for clipping someone's toenails. Because your lower extremity is incredibly powerful, and it is designed to push out and kick out and take somebody out. And unfortunately, when you're clipping toenails, you're sort of in a vulnerable place, and it can go south in a heartbeat. The other place, obviously, that is incredibly vulnerable is right down in this area right here, where, you know, from a very young age, we're guided and trained that no one touches that but you, unless you are in a relationship with another human being, in which case that has a different value and purpose. But other than that, you manage yourself down there and how you're touched in that area. Because of the number of sensory end organs, it's incredibly ow, ow, ow if somebody doesn't do it in the same form or fashion. And even we can experience, oh gosh, that toilet paper is really rough, or, you know, ouch, ouch, I must have a hemorrhoid, or whatever it is. There's lots of things that can happen in that area that are really sensitive. If you've ever had a yeast infection or a UTI where it feels raw, or you drank, you know, didn't drink enough water, so your urine got really strong, it can actually burn that area. Or you're on antibiotics and you can get diarrhea, and the diarrhea can be really acidic. And so it's very painful. And if somebody were to oh God. So typically we are very sensitive in the front area, but we are much less sensitive in the back. So anything that involves around the face, around the fingers, particularly at the tips of these three more than the others, around the toes and around genitalia. Other than that, humans, as a rule, are less sensitive on other body parts. Those, however, high intensity. So the sutures on the face, if we're having to do something that is really intense and will involve both of our hands, this is another situation where we have to have a partner whose really primary focus is on the individual living with dementia, so that I can focus on the task here, and the human being who's doing a double hand under hand support hold can be my advocate and say, she's almost done, two more to go. Okay, she got another one. Yeah, right, I know it's so much. Oh gosh, she's messing with you. You're doing great. You are doing great. So I become the voice of the human. And we also have some techniques that I wasn't planning on showing this time, but what we'll do is I will make sure I make a little video clip, and Corey will include it with this recording, so that I have recordings of the double hand under hand support with a partner when you need someone to do something. And we'll do pericare, we will do nails, we will do toes, and we will also do something around the face, so that we can show how that looks. And on the face, what I will also show you is how to stabilize the head in a way that's not intrusive and is supportive, so that there's less potential of the person flinging their head around, which this neck joint is incredibly flexible. Especially, and you don't want to be chasing somebody with suture removals, which causes us to want to hold their head, which is the absolute worst thing to do to somebody who's already distressed, because they feel like you're going to trap them. And it just makes them more distressed and stronger. And then they'll start really bucking, and they might actually try to headbutt you, because in that point, they really don't have a sense of self-awareness and safety. They're just trying to get away from this thing that's trying to, in their mind, kill them.
So we talked about some of these skills. Here's where I'm going to show you what they look like. This is my daughter, Jamie. So she's agreed to do a little role playing so we can show you these skills. So Teepa has talked about a couple of times now, some double hand under hand. Here's what that looks like. It's the right to right, up and around, hand under hand. Her hand is on top. I take my second hand and it goes under her arm and I bring it up where she can see so I can get the second hand. Now, commonly, when people get into double hand under hand, they often stay in this handshake position. You're going to want to make sure you bring it up and around for that more comfortable grip on the padding of the hand. So when we're using this to offset sensitive care, I actually want to bring her elbow into the crook of my elbow and apply some pressure there. I'm going to move a little bit out front. I'm just going to have her turn actually a little bit, steer her with this rudder here. And I'm going to move to where she can see me because I'm going to be present with her through the discomfort of the care. So I want to make eye contact. And I'm going to give some deep pumps here in the hand pumps, especially when, it's particularly uncomfortable. And I'll be able to see that and notice because I'm really paying attention to her. Ooh, yeah. Oh, you're not liking this. I know. I'm sorry. Almost done. Okay. So this is double hand under hand with deep pumps to offset sensitive peri-care, maybe some other types of care as well. I'm with her and my partner is doing the care quickly and effectively. Double hand under hand. But Teepa also talked about using it for some other places as well. I can use some hand under hand and proprioception in order to offset the sensation of getting nails done, of getting blood pressure taken. I can actually have Jamie sit down and I'll bring the camera down. Teepa talked about feet. What does it look like when we use it for a person with their feet? Okay, so I want to make sure that she sees me and she can track my hand to a joint. I'm going to bring it to this other joint. It won't be such a surprise now when I keep this contact. I like to slide my knee under the ankle so there's some proprioception there. Now, if I don't have a partner, this is one way to be able to provide proprioception while I'm messing with her feet a little bit. It's not quite as bad when I've got some pressure on the joint. Now, if I have somebody else helping, maybe there's the foot care specialist, I can keep her foot, her ankle on my knee, if it's possible, or I could just be sitting with her in some deep hand under hand. Now, there's lots of ways to go about this. Feel free to experiment and play with it. This is just what I've tried and had some success with. Teepa talked about how to support the neck. Let's take a look at that. I'm going to bring the camera back up a little bit. Okay. So, in a case where we want to support the person's neck, what I can do is I can get up next to the person. Normally we're not doing this on a couch, so I would want to sit perpendicular with one foot in front, 1 foot behind. But in this case, I'm just going to sit beside. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my arm and I'm going to bring it across. So her neck is essentially in the crook of my elbow. I'm going to apply my hand to her shoulder. And I'm going to use that pressure on the shoulder as leverage in order to support her head. Go ahead and try to push your head back. Try hard. Try hard. Oh, she can't do it. But is it uncomfortable? No. No? How about this? Okay, let me help you. Oh man, do you like that? I don't. No. Bring the arm across onto the shoulder, and I actually got a lot of leverage this way. Yeah, try to tip forward. What I can actually do is apply that pressure to the shoulder to make sure that she stays back and she stays upright. And then I can work with those sutures, or maybe even brush your teeth, or what have you. So there you have it, a couple of ways to really offset some of that sensitivity through hand under hand and proprioception.
So, Rachel, in that line, what I would say, let's make sure that the person you're working with has simple pull-up, like sweatpants that he wears, so I'm not having to take time to unfasten things, and making sure that maybe what we use is a pull-up, not a brief. Because when we do a pull-up, all I have to do is pull it down. I don't have to unfasten 5 tapes, and I don't have to try to get them off. So it's pull up, push down. And so it's a very quick gross motor movement, and I'm going to have to restrain the person less. And the helper is going to start by cleaning off the back side and only do the front side with heavy hand on the shoulder and cleaning from front to back, but from the back of the body. Because the back of your body has much less sensation, and you are not a visual trigger for me at that point. And you're less available for me to attack to the front, and I won't be remembering the attack. And actually, the touch from the back tends to be more like your own hand cleans yourself, because there's no visual of somebody doing something to me. I'm feeling something very close, someone very close to me, but really then I'm getting touched, but not in the same way as if somebody's coming from the front and is very visible as attacking me down there. Does that also then give you some information that might help?
A lot of that we do.
Okay.
The main issue with the drag out fight was actually getting him into the bathroom. I don't need to go. And so we can't get him into the bathroom, and we both landed on the floor.
Yeah, so that's where I would say, okay, so why did you need to go in the bathroom?
Okay.
Isn't that like that moment where you go,
get him to stand up from the couch, because I just want to sleep. I don't need to.
I know you do. You just want to sleep. And as soon as we're done, I'll let you sleep. Yep. I'm not going to make you go anywhere. I just need you to sit up for a second and stand up for 1 second, and then I'll let you lay back down.
And he just says no.
You don't want to get up. Okay, well, we need to get up and do this, and then you can lay back down.
But
so
I
do you want
to. I'm not going
I know
to.
You don't. I got it. You don't want to. I got that. Yep, I heard you.
Good night.
Roll to me. Yep, I'm going to help you get up. I'm going to help you sit up, and you got to have your hand under hands ready. At that point, I heard you. You don't want to. I heard you. We're going to lean you forward. I'm going to bring you forward. Yep. Okay, now straighten up. There you go. We're almost done. We're almost already done. We are. You can lay back down as soon as we're done. I think one of the things I would say is you probably are asking way too much. If you get him up and get him changed, that's enough for right now. And even if you can just get him to lean forward onto another chair so he doesn't have to stand up all the way, that's another option. But to have everything you need ready to roll, all your wet cloths already in one container and all your rinse cloths in another little container so that you're ready to roll as soon as you got him up. We're going to get it done, get it over with, and get back. And even if you just get everything off and you just put a brief back on, we're done. That's it. No pants, just the brief. That's it. Just the pull up. We're finished. Time out. and give him some space, because we only are going to push for the absolute essential of we want to clean off his skin. That's the only thing we're really worried about right now. And I might, I mean, depending on how raw his skin is, the only thing I might do is while he's off the couch, put some chucks down so he can just lay there in the wide open, because at least his skin will dry out a little bit and not be up against another surface. And he might be chilly enough in a little bit that I can say, here, put this on. But just let him be wide open to the air, because that's actually healthier for his tissue than putting him back in something very quickly after you just got him out of something.
So how do we manage care in sensitive areas? Again, 4 areas of increased sensitivity as dementia progresses: lips, tongue, and mouth, fingers, toes, and groin. It's ideal to have a partner so one person can focus on the task while the other person does some of the skills we've been talking about and that we showed you previously. Double hand under hand, proprioception, and lots of validation. It's great to have a tire that's easily applied and removed so we're not wasting time fussing with stuff. And on our end, it's important to check our expectations. We've really got to expect less and provide only the essential care, only what's really necessary. We're providing that care from behind or off to the side, so it's less of a visual threat. And it just feels a little more comfortable and a little less overwhelming for the person who's receiving that care. Okay, let's see what Teepa talks about next.
So anything else, Corey, that we have coming up to look at?
Yes. So someone who wants to go home, and if they can't go right away, they become very agitated and threatens to hit.
Yeah, so we have somebody who's committed to getting out of one location to find the place they think they belong. And this going home means they're seeking a place of safety. They're seeking a place of comfort. They're seeking a place where they know what to do. They think they don't. They're seeking to not be here and to be with somebody or in a situation where they feel like this is totally unsafe. This is not where I'm supposed to be. I have a commitment to be somewhere else. And if you get in my way, I'm going to hit you because you've got to get out of my way. I don't want to hit you, but I'm going to hit you. So that's somebody that's a little different. So we have somebody who's verbalizing what they want, and that if you don't do something, they're going to hit you. So what they've done is they have been able to use words to tell you what I'm going to do. And if you keep doing what you're doing in that moment, there's a high probability they will hit you because they warned you. They told you that if you didn't, they would. If you don't let me out, I will do this. That is still an if-then statement. You're actually in a better place than the person who's just simply thriving around and they don't get it and nothing you say gets it. So what we're going to do is we're going to go back to that. Yes, it feels like you're being held prisoner. Yeah, I agree with you. Absolutely. And that's not okay because nobody should be held prisoner. But when I have somebody who's still talking to me and they're still giving me words, I am in a different place than someone who's quit giving me words. So let's go ahead and talk about the people who are giving me words. Because I've described a little of what we're going to do when somebody's already at physical aggression. They are actually physically fighting me because I'm trying to do something that they've told me no about. I feel like I don't have another option other than to do this thing because it's not okay. Let me go back to the suture for just a second, Angelica, before I move on to yours. I would say, who is the person who put those sutures in and didn't do self-absorbing sutures? Seriously, who in their right mind puts sutures you have to take in somebody who's living with dementia? I'm sorry, but that's illogical because what you're saying is not only I put them sutures in maybe when somebody was drugged. So what you're wanting me to do is drug them again so I can get the sutures out. It's like, well, why not put self-absorbing sutures in? Or why not use butterflies? Or why not? There are so many options that could be used that people, frankly, are just in quick motion and they're doing what they routinely do rather than thinking through, what is this going to do potentially for a person living with dementia who has to then be attacked again in order to get those sutures out? They're going to remember any of this. What makes you think they're going to remember that they have sutures in there and those sutures are going to need to come out? All they want to do, put your fingers up here, they feel this thing and it's getting sort of irritating. So see if you can't pull it out. I mean, surely if you work at it hard enough, you can get these suckers out yourself. So let me just see if I can't rip them out. And it's like, really, seriously? You just got to wonder sometimes. People aren't thinking ahead. They're just in the moment themselves and they're getting their job done. But nobody is actually looking at the person they're doing it with to think, okay, is this a good strategy? Is this a good idea? So Angelica, so what we have is we have somebody who's very demanding that they need to go home. They want to go home. So the most important thing is to acknowledge their message. You want out of here, and if I don't move out of your way, you're going to hit me. You are going to hit me because I'm making you so mad. Now, the position in which you place yourself is if a person is heading toward the door, you do not want to get between them and the door, ever. You never position yourself so you block the door. What you want to make sure is on the far side of the door, you want to think of what's on the far side of the door. What could you have on the far side of the door that's going to immediately draw their eye and draw them so that they're very likely to go a certain direction? So if the door does open, there is a place they are going to immediately think to go. I'm going to make it so obvious that you're going to want to go there. So what could I have right outside the door that would draw you if you thought here was not supposed to be and you were being kept imprisoned? What could I have out there visually that would immediately draw you to the thing because it's a way to escape? I would put a car out there. I would have a car available and I'd have the back seat turned toward and I'd have the door open. So that the person immediately, as they go out the door, sees an avenue of escape out of here, but the avenue of escape is putting them in a vehicle, the back seat, which is a way to contain them, but in a different environment, so that they are actually going somewhere. So the message to them is they're going somewhere. That's if I'm unsuccessful at getting them to be able to stay with me, I have them going to a place, because if you block the door, there's a very high risk that the person will eventually get to a place where they will hit you because they don't see another way out of here. You're the thing that's keeping me in, not the door, not my dementia. You are the thing. And if I can get rid of you, then I can get out. So you might actually have somebody trying to choke you, whack you, hit you, knock you down. They might just try to move you out of the way. But typically at that point, they see you as the thing that's ruining their life. And they've escalated to such a point, they think if they can just get rid of you, they will actually break out a window with their arm. And if they can't get out the door, they will try a window. And people have, I've had somebody try to go out a second-story window. This is really intense when they have that. That was somebody that I was working with that was status post head injury, who had obvious dementia following their head injury, and they were back in the facility due to new episodes of something going on. And it turned out it was dementia. But their head injury was about 8 years prior to that, and they had stabilized. But then we started to see the stabilization fail, and they started moving forward into young onset dementia. And they were so adamant about leaving that they tried to get out a second-story window. So we had to accommodate, because you would think they couldn't get out, but they were willing to hurt themselves in incredible ways to get out that window. And the window would only open that much. And this was a fairly large person, but they jammed their head in there. And that then becomes very dangerous trying to get somebody out because the window's secured and you can't raise the window higher. And you're having to get people close with tools to try to get the window open. And nothing about this, because they're still trying to get out and they are still trying to hurt people who are trying to keep them in. So this is that place where we have to go timeout. At this point, they so believe they're being held and captured against their will that they're willing to hurt themselves to a place of killing themselves in order to get out. But their first line of defense is to kill you first, get you out of the way first. So if somebody is that demanding to leave a space, unless we really feel that they would become dangerous to others, we're actually creating less danger by giving them an out, an escape route that leads them into a safer option, given the alternatives. Or you could certainly try medications at that point. The challenge with trying to get a medication in someone at that point is that anything you try to do with them is highly suspect by them. And what's going to happen is they're going to escalate further up. And you often end up getting things knocked out of your hands. Then we're talking about needing multiple people. And then it becomes this traumatic event. So one of the things to consider is what's driving a person to feel that this is such a dangerous place, I must leave. And so what I would say is, I'm wondering if we need to switch people out, that you need a partner. And I guess one of the questions is, are you working solo? No, you have other people around.
Yeah, I have other people around, but I think so it comes always along when there is something he doesn't like. So for example, this is a day program. So when we are watching, for example, a music video, if it is not absolutely his taste, then I can 100% sure I can say he's going to get up in the next moment and he will be actually walking down to the main street.
Yep.
It's very difficult to redirect him. I mean, I did on Friday, but I'm very worried that I'm not always able to do so.
And I think you've got a legitimate concern because once he's established that he can exit, and he is going to exit because he's not putting up with this anymore. And so his pattern is elopement when he feels confronted by something he doesn't like. And he says, I want to go home. All he really wants to do is get out. And so what's happening is he needs to leave. So what I would say is if your brain is saying, this isn't going well, I'm wondering if approaching him and saying, hey, John, you need to get out of here. Come on, let's go. You don't need to stay here anymore. I'm not going to have you stay here anymore. Come on, I'm going to get you out of here. Because leaving with him is actually a lot less dangerous than him thinking you're trying to keep him here and he's trying to get away from you. Because then he's leaving with a partner and you have an emergency call system as opposed to him trying to get away from you, in which he won't think of any danger that he runs into as dangerous. He thinks you're more dangerous than anything else. So he's running to get away from you or moving to get away from you. So he won't regard traffic. He won't regard people. He will shove people or things out of his way in order to get away from you because he's the refugee now. He's the fugitive. And the hardest thing for us is not to chase. Because our brain is going,
On Friday, I just, I went with him together down to that point where there's actually very busy street is. And then I said, no, you know what, Bob, let's just, go back now and see what everybody else is doing. And he was willing. He turned around and he came back. And then the funny part is after that, he was fine. Yeah,
he just needed a different environment. His hippocampus got overloaded. And he didn't like where he was. And his hippocampus was telling him, if you go to a new place, you'll be fine. And he was right. He just needed a new environment. So I'm wondering if there's a time of day or activity that particularly tends to set him off. And the only suggestion I might have that you were successful at is, hey, Bob, would you rather go back or do you want to stop and get a coffee? Let's get a coffee on the way back. Because even a little more break, because what you said is we're going to go out and that's fine. you went out, that's cool. And rather than go straight back, I'll give you a choice. Do you want to go back or would you like to get a coffee first?
Mm-hmm.
Because it gives him one more pause point before he heads back to an environment that was too much for him.
Okay. Okay. I will
So he's high risk though. I mean, he is incredibly high risk. Oof. Yikes.
The person really wants out. Okay. When they're using words and they're telling you as much, that's a bit of an advantage. We're in a better position than what could be. So if they're using if-then statements or they're threatening to use force with their words, what we want to do is give back some of their words. We're going to reflect back their message. We're going to validate their message. The example Teepa used, it feels like you're being held prisoner. That's not okay. No one should feel like they're being held prisoner. We want to be on their side, championing their desire. When the person may resort to physical aggression, whatever that might look like, what we want to be aware of is not blocking the person. We absolutely do not want to block the way out. Again, we want to be on their side. Maybe create an escape route. Let's get creative and give them a safer option. Provide choices when we get there. Another thing we really want to be cognizant of is what's driving the person? Why are they so desperate to get out? What's underlying in this situation? Again, we've got to use our big juicy brains to figure out how to get working together with the person rather than opposing them.
So what I'm wondering now is, Corey, I'm going to go ahead and have you share a video, unless we've gotten some other situations or some other questions.
We did have somebody that commented on bathing, Teepa.
Okay.
If we can touch on that a little bit.
Good. Well, what we'll do is we'll start maybe with not the bathing one, and we'll sort of see what we're going to do with that one first. And we're going to be a courtyard scene. And what we're going to do is we have a physical therapist who's trying to work with me. And I want you to watch what happens. Now, this was shot when we were over in Wales. And so we have, one of our folks has a bit of a Welsh accent. I'm the person who's living with dementia. I'm role playing that role, but I'm pretty good at it. So we'll see how it looks and how it goes. And then we have some other players in the scene. So go ahead and give it a shot if you would.
Hey Teepa.
Hey,
How are you doing?
I'm okay.
Teepa, we need to stand up and have a little walk, okay? Is that all right?
Stand up and walk?
Yeah.
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 Look at him,
So,
isn't
yeah.
he something?
We'll come on to him now.
Okay.
I need you to focus, okay?
All right.
So I'm going to move your bottom forward, then we're going to sit forward, we're going to have a stand up. Okay, because I gotta watch my back.
Okay,
is that all
yeah,
right with
watch
you?
your back.
You got
Okay,
it?
watch your back.
That's it. That's it. You got it. Right.
Okay. Oh, what are you doing?
I've got to move your bottom forward.
No, I don't want you putting your hand on
It'll
me.
be fine. Don't worry, you're not going to fall.
I just told, I said no now.
No, come on. Come on.
I know. Ow! What are you doing? Don't do that.
I've got it. Guys, someone help me out here.
Well, you can't touch her on the. That's not appropriate.
Yeah, well, we've got to get on with it, haven't we? No, we've got to get it up. Otherwise, she's not going to get up at all. Right, come on, one more go. Take my hand. Take my
I
hand.
don't want to hold your hand.
Come on, come with
Leave
me.
me be. Why are you doing this? Stop it.
Sit forward now.
No, get your hands off of me. I don't like this. Angie.
Okay. Oh, it doesn't.
It's okay, bud. It's okay. Oh, it's
Made the
okay.
baby cry.
She's okay. She's okay.
So what happened? Anybody want to indicate what happened for me?
I mean, he definitely, he was not giving up. I think he should have gotten back and reassessed the situation and to try it in a different way.
Well, he was really worried about he only had a certain amount of time to see me, and we need to work on my walking. So what did he miss? So what did he miss coming in that turned out to be really important to me?
He didn't introduce himself. I mean, that was already the first thing. He could have told you who he is and what he's trying, what he is going to do. So, and
well, what did he miss about me? Watch it again, because I want you to realize how little he was paying attention to me. He came in with his agenda, and he totally missed what I was doing.
Teepa, Elizabeth said that she would have used the baby as bait to get you up.
That would have been a really good idea, because watch carefully and see where all my attention is. And he's an annoying fly, and I try to flick him off several times. But because he's trying to move me forward, he's putting himself in a very vulnerable situation. And yet he'll blame me for when I hit him, and yet he's in the space. So go ahead and watch again, and watch how much he ignores my cues and even what I'm doing when he wants to come in.
Hey, Teepa.
Hey,
How you doing?
I'm okay.
Teepa, we're going to stand up and have a little walk, okay? Is that all right?
Stand up and walk?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
Look at
pause.
him. Isn't he something?
So I even tell him what I'm watching. Look at him, isn't he something? So he's off to the side. I get him, but I'm not interested in him. But he's so interested in what he wants, he doesn't give me a chance. So now let's switch out, Corey, and let's watch the other version of Nick with pack skills and see how this plays for him.
Hey, Teepa. You're doing well there.
Yeah, look at him.
Look at him. He's
a cute one, eh?
enjoying it, isn't he? Look at him. He knows what he's
He
doing.
knows what he's doing.
What a job.
Yeah.
Teepa,
Yeah.
should we go and have a little look and see if we can help him out?
Oh, over here?
Yeah, you think
Oh,
so?
okay. Yeah,
That's
sure.
it. You got it. Just lean forward a bit.
Lean forward.
Teepa.
Yeah.
Teepa, watch me.
Okay.
Scoot forward a bit.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, like that. You're
Yeah,
scooting your
yeah,
butt.
you
Oh,
got it, you
yeah,
got
your
it.
bum.
That's
Yeah,
it.
you got it.
Coming forward a little
A
bit
little bit more.
That's it. Excellent. Okay. You're going to lean forward.
He's really cute, isn't
He
he?
is. Look at him. Isn't he pretty? He's a handsome boy.
He's a
isn't he?
handsome boy.
Hey?
He's a handsome
Is he going to wave
boy.
at us? I think.
Yeah, say hi. Oh, you gonna wave?
Can you say hi?
Can you say hi?
We need their help, don't we,
Do
bud?
you think we can go and help him out?
Oh yes,
Yeah.
yeah. Let's go help him out.
That's it. You got it. Just
So I gotta just
yeah, lean forward a little bit.
little bit more.
Push, 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 push.
push, push.
Yeah. You can take my hand. if you
Oh,
want
okay.
to.
That'd be good.
Come on, then, let's
Hello,
go.
little boy.
He's
Hello.
handsome, isn't he?
He's a handsome boy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, we're playing a game here, we.
We're playing a
Do
game.
you fancy going that?
Could
as
you
well?
help us put it in this one?
Oh, that one.
Good shot.
One down here.
There's one down there. That's it. You can use me. That's
I've
it.
got it.
You got it.
I've got
Good
it.
job.
Yay!
Good job.
Where do we put this one?
Where do you put it,
Where's
bud?
Where do we put it?
In there? Oh, just
Where do you
right.
put it?
Oh, say
Oh,
thank
see,
you.
I'll get it. Let me get him
Yeah,
another
come on,
one.
let's walk up a bit further. That's it.
I
You
got it.
Yeah, use me as well.
There
Hey.
you go. Here.
Say thank you.
That one's full.
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh.
That's fun.
Yeah, that's good. You enjoyed
Nice.
that?
Oh, I've got it.
Oh,
I've got it.
nice and steady. You got
I'm
it.
there.
Well done. Good job.
Okay, pause. And let's come back to everybody. Thanks for sharing, Corey. So what ended up happening in this scenario? Oops. What did y'all figure out?
I mean, he used definitely to use the baby. I mean, as soon you mentioned that, he just took it and went from there, and
Yep.
you're actually up.
You got it. So how much standing am I doing in the second scene?
A lot.
So, I'm wondering if that's the case. We went from an aggressive individual who was whacking and hitting to a person who's actually handing a baby things and bending over and picking it up and bending it over and picking up and working on standing balance. Which direction caused me to reach a goal, mobility goal, much more quickly and much more effectively? Using what I'm interested in. So that's where giving ground and being willing to say, boy, I sure thought this is what needed to happen, but maybe I need to back up for a minute and figure out, well, what of what I think needs to happen really needs to happen, and what would I want to happen, and what would I like to happen, and how do I help myself let go of everything but truly what needs to happen, and then get myself to a place where what needs to happen, I have the right support, the right environment, the right props, I have everything that I need so that we can get that need dealt with as quick and as effectively as possible so that we're done with it. And then let's move back to life. And we can all agree it wasn't fun. Nobody liked it. But I didn't spend 10 minutes in a traumatic event that the brain is going to remember as traumatic. It simply was a disliked need, and it was a disliked activity, but it wasn't a trauma. I didn't like it, but all I did was not like it. I didn't hate it to a place where if it happens again, I'll take you out just for looking at me or just standing in front of the door. And so it's learning from where we have an uh-oh, or where we feel like we really have to do something, to back ourselves up to such a place where we have to acknowledge this dementia is changing that person in so many ways. It's so hard for us to place ourselves in that situation because it's just not us. So, Corey, do we have any other comments that we need to or want to respond to?
Well, Elizabeth was happy to see that he used the baby as bait.
That's a good thing. You're right, Elizabeth. That was a perfect idea.
And her additional comment was that, you know, it's how we can make it enjoyable for people living with.
Yeah.
Effie.
Corey,
Oh, go ahead.
at least not miserable.
Yeah, right. Effie says, we have a resident who was a social worker in her prior life and likes to help others, but it often ends up creating way more problems because she gets mad because the other resident doesn't respond how she wants them to.
Yeah, okay, so we've got a couple of real problems here. And I'm going to be honest, this is a really challenging situation because Effie is people-focused, not task-focused. Effie is really driven to help, not to be helped. Effie really believes that, or not Effie, but her person, I'm going to say Effie just because we'll let Effie be her. Effie believes that she knows what to do to help people. And when people are not helpful and they're not doing what she's trying to help them do, she becomes really frustrated, but they become angry because they don't think she has any business doing what she's doing because she's not as good at this as she thinks she is. So this is where, as staff members, one of the most important things we have to remember is we're getting paid to do what we're doing. People who are living there aren't getting paid to do this. And so Effie needs to help me. I need to create opportunities for Effie to help me. And so as much as I would prefer not to have to interact with Effie as much, Effie needs me to need her, because I've got to seem and be slightly incompetent so that Effie can turn her helping behavior toward me. And I can respond to Effie because I'm being paid to do it and I have a greater brain capacity than most of the people she's trying to help. So what I'd ask is, what kind of things does she like to help do for these people? Does she, because I've got to figure out then, what is she doing already? Sort of like the baby for bait. What do I use for bait for this person so that she will be curious enough, interested enough, or committed enough to helping me versus these other people who need help? So my question is, does she respond to visual signals of distress, or is she responding to behaviors that she observes between two other people? Is she responding to people who seem to be all alone and don't know what to do? So she actually believes she has motor skills beyond her skill set. And so she likes to help people go places. So trying to help people get dressed, trying to walk people, trying to help them get to bed. So she might be somebody who could be my supervisor. So I might say to her is, hey, Rachel, I'm going to ask you for a huge favor. I know you have a lot of background in helping people. I am going to push this wheelchair, and I want you to tell me if I'm doing it well or not. Now, I'm going to talk to the person first, and then I'm going to start pushing the wheelchair. Could you watch me and let me know whether or not I'm doing it the way I should, or give me an okay or a not okay? Because I want her to help her go down the hall, and I'm just not sure I'm so good at this. I know you are. So I'm gonna talk to her for a second, and then I want you to watch me. Can you watch me and give me some feedback? So her new job is telling me what I'm doing right and what I'm doing wrong. So Effie, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna, so, know-it-alls. Yeah, so it feels like everybody thinks they know everything, and you know better how to help people. I agree with you. I mean, because you have done this a long time. So let me ask you something. So I don't have my shirt on. And so this lady over here, so how do you think I should help her put it on? Because I believe you. I believe you're better than I am. So here's the shirt. How would you help her? Because I should learn how to do this. And I think you're probably better at this than me. Show me how you would get somebody to put the shirt on. Can you show me? So what I'm doing is actually engaging her with me at doing it. Rather than trying to get her to stop doing her thing, let her be our teacher. Because what she's saying to us is, I feel devalued and I feel left out and I feel like people are doing things all around me and I don't know what to do with myself. The tricky part for somebody like her is she's not interested in doing things for not people. She really wants to help. So getting her to go with me, to go do things with me, to help me, will be about the only way she's not going to try to get those that she sees, because she's very visually driven. So I need to pull her out of common spaces with great regularity, because every time she's in a common space, every time she's in a helping behavior situation, she is going to take over and start trying to do it. So what I'm going to do is say, ooh, oh my gosh, I am so glad I found you. I need you. I need you right now to help me. I have somebody that needs some help, and I'm not sure what to do. Now, if I say that to her, what do you think? Do you think she would go for that or not? I need your help. So I come and oh, Tori, I so need your help. Have you got a couple minutes? I've got somebody I need help with, and I need you to show me how to do something, because I know you know how.
All right.
Come on. I'm going to show you. Take me in here and show me how you would help somebody get to bed. It's like Mary. Mary stands like this. How would you help her get in the bed? Because that's what I can't figure out.
Teepa, look.
Yeah.
I know I've showed you this before.
I know you have. And I wish I'm having so much trouble. You are so good at this, and I am having so much trouble. So show me when she's.
Yeah. So you're going to have to stand to the side.
Okay, so go ahead and try it with me so I can feel it. Yeah, so what would have to happen is she literally has to help me lay down in the bed, because her brain is not going to be satisfied with talking about it. She's going to have to do it. So I've got to let her treat me like I'm the person, but it gets it out of her system. Yeah, so the challenge is when she's already walking. So if she's already walking or going, you say running. I mean, she's heading down the hallway with somebody in a wheelchair and they're going, ah, whoa, 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 whoa. And what we want to do is, Tori. So we swing around to the front. We get really excited. One hand needs to be toward her, and one needs to be out like this. Tori! Oh, I am so glad I found you. And I have to be at least 15 feet in front of her. So what I do is walk by very quickly and then turn and, oh, Tori, thank heavens, I was looking for you. And I am planted catty corner from this wheelchair. One hand is a stop sign that's coming out. This is like that gate that they put down so that the cars know, pause, we're not going through right now. The boats can't go because the bridge is raised. And then this one is an invitation of recognition. you are who I was looking for. Listen, I need some help. So I don't try to stop her from behind. I have to truly swing to the front, come out in front of her and discover her in that moment. So I walk by very quickly like I'm looking for something. And then, oh, Corey, just who I was looking for. And so this is this moment where we've got to ignore her until we're ready to address her. Because if I come up behind her, all it's going to make her is surprised, angry if I try to pause her. Because she thinks she's doing something that has value. What I would also wonder is, does she have pain medication and does she get it regularly? Because I'm suspicious about arthritis pain. And the reason I say that, by afternoon, people who have arthritis start pushing things and doing heavy work, and they get really animated with it because they're in so much discomfort. What they're doing is a pain substitution, and it's sort of a counter irritant. If they push hard enough through their joints, they basically have trouble tolerating the discomfort they're in. And so what they're doing is engaging in a heavy work activity to eliminate pain. So I'm wondering, does she drink anything with fair regularity? Is there anything she will drink? Does she like sweet drinks by any chance? Any kind of sweet drink or any kind of like coffee? Is there a routine drink that she'll take? Because my recommendation would be liquid Tylenol. And it can be placed in you have your order for it, but move to liquid Tylenol. And so what it does is it eliminates the need to do it as a medication. It just becomes a drink. Or you can actually mix it into like Jell-O, and people can eat Jell-O that have the liquid, yeah. So yeah, that is a risk, but which behavior is greater risk? Her hurting another resident or ending up not being able to be managed on her unit, or the possibility that liquid Tylenol might be a bit of a problem, but we don't know whether it will be for her unless we know by history that it's an issue for her. One is a potential risk, and the other one is somewhere, I would say that behavior that you're describing is somewhere between risky and dangerous. It's definitely socially dangerous. It's physically risky, but for the person in the chair, if she's agitated or distressed or trying to help people and she's not very good at it, she actually creates physical danger for the other person and possibly for herself, because she's really not good enough at this to be safe. And so I would err on the side of giving it a shot, probably if the physician was in agreement, because there's less risk for that than her current behavior. And if what she's experienced is somewhat related to pain, it should eliminate some of her distress level, because what's really driving her is the distress of her pain. So that's just a thought, at least with her. The other thing is whether we can engage her helping us in other ways. Is she ever exhibited an interest or a willingness to help with setting things up or breaking things down or doing something in an area? Or is it always people-oriented? And it could be always people-oriented, which some people are, and that makes it a bigger challenge. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to switch us off to a bathing video. Okay. And we're going to switch out to the bathing video because I want you to see someone who, this is Nick, who had been the therapist, but now he's role-playing with me. And he's a young man with, and Nick has worked with lots of young men who has both frontal and temporal dementia. And he's pretty advanced in his disability. So he is no longer able to have the motor coordination and the sequencing to stand for a shower. So he's in a shower chair. He is no longer able to understand the vast majority of the language that we're trying to use, and he doesn't understand the task, but he's incredibly curious about things. And he has a fair amount of strength, like he's really strong.
All right, Nick, we're gonna go in the shower. Here we go. Okay, you got it? Of course, they're all watching. We're gonna get you in the shower, hey? Yeah, see that? That's what we're doing. We're gonna, no, Nick, that's not for you now. Let go, that's for me. That's for me. Here, I'm not taking your pants off because that was a stunt and a half to get that going. Here, turn this way. I don't want you getting the shower curtain. Here, now I'm gonna turn this on. Oh, I forgot the wipes. Allie? Yeah. Whoa, sit down. Hand me the wipes, would you? I forgot them. Yeah, open it, because here. Now stay around, because I don't trust him. Okay. Nick, don't start that now. Quit. You need to quit.
Get off.
Nick, stop it. Now stop it. Can you get the brake on that side? I'm afraid to reach across him. There you go. See, we're gonna clean you up, Nick. Look at me. Don't you do that with Allie. No, that's not okay. Here, look, we're turning the shower on. I'm turning it on, Nick. Here, look. There you go. Here, let's just get it done. Nick, come on, man. Come on. Let's just do it. Come on. Nick, stop. Here. Nick, stop. You need to stop. This is crazy. Here, let's just get it done.
Okay, so how's that going for everybody? And yet I wish I could say this never happens in any building or any agency or any facility I've ever been in. And yet I can tell you this is not that uncommon. And yet when you watch it, your brain goes, ay, nothing about this is going well. And all of it, I'm telling him, I think he'll hit somebody. And then I'm surprised if he hits somebody. I am telling her that I don't trust him. I am telling him, Nick. I keep grabbing things. I keep shoving things around. So it's really surprising that Nick doesn't actually just take me out. But interestingly enough, he's more worried about Allison. And the reason he's worried about Allison is Allison's on his non-dominant side. And he can't figure her out. And she keeps moving around. And it's making him really uncomfortable for her to be over there. And she's making it much worse because she keeps moving over there because he's making her nervous. And so I'm yelling and she's moving and he's got to watch her and listen to me. And none of this is going to go well. I can just guarantee it. And what I will tell you is that unfortunately, Nick doesn't have capacity to write the story, because if he could, he would probably tell a very different story than I would tell about what happened in this bathroom scenario when he finally grabbed me and then he hit me with his other hand, because I just wore him out. I literally wore him out. He tried everything he knew to get me to listen to him. I wasn't listening. So if I don't listen to the person that I'm trying to help, whether they're showing me something or they're telling me something, what ends up happening is they get louder. And then eventually they can't use words anymore, and then they use action.
So you're safe, yes? And I'm gonna switch over here. There you go. Right here and right here. We got it. All right, now Nick.
Let's pause. Here. Okay, so we'll move through this next content. So what I actually did is when I took him into the bathroom, you'll notice that I have towels draped over him. And he didn't grab anything. Do we need to see that again? Corey, can you go over that again? Can you go from where I have him coming into the shower to where we, there we go. Well, maybe we do, and maybe Corey's frozen up again. Oops. We turn around, and let's see how that goes. It's magic.
You're safe, yes? And I'm gonna switch over here. There you go. Right here and right here. We got it.
That was a good try, Corey. I think we'll just give this a pass and we'll add it on to the webinar at the end.
Good deal.
Yeah, sorry guys. So what would you notice? What was one or two things you did notice? Was there a second person in the room? I didn't need a second person. What I did is I actually actively engaged Nick. I quit using my voice as a weapon, and I started using my body as a cueing system. I cover Nick up so that there's less of a chance that the air movement against his skin is going to trigger an emotional reaction. I'm also covering him up so he feels a little safer. And whenever I speak to him, I position my down into the side in a supportive stance, but I'm down really low because Nick tends to look more downward than he looks upward because his ability to take his body and selectively bring his head and neck up, it just isn't working. He's actually in a position now where what he's doing is he's leaning down, and when he wants to lean, he brings his whole body forward and back. And so by being downward, he can see all of me and interpret me more readily and easily. And I stay down when I move around him so he knows where I'm at all points in time. So there's more to that video, and we will make sure we include it because Nick is the kind of guy that if you're caring for him and you don't do it right, he has the potential to become quite physically assertive in letting us know he doesn't like what we're doing within a few seconds. And I'll have very little recovery time before this gets out of control.
All right. So am I being person-centered or more task-centered? Let's take a look at some questions in summary that we can be asking ourselves. Are we using what the person is interested in? Are we really dialed in to what they're interested in the moment and in general? Are we noticing what the person is responding to? What do they really like? What catches their attention? What do they not like? What distresses them? These are things to know about the person in order to support us in supporting them. Are they sort of more interested in people, or do they tend to be more interested in things? That's a big picture thing to know about the person in order to know how to engage them. All right, so next, are we creating opportunities for the person to be able to help us? Everybody likes to have purpose and value. Oftentimes, when a person has dementia, they really spend a lot of time waiting. How can we figure out how to really bring in their talents and abilities, or just something that they're interested in order to help us? Maybe I play it up a little bit, but I gotta find something so that person can help me with something instead of me always trying to help them. I want to be relieved or excited to see them. And that can really help them to feel valued. I'm showing them their importance to me. I also want to engage the person in doing. I want to get them doing so it gets out of their system because it feels good to do. Feels good to do.
What I'm going to do now is just back up questions to see if anybody has any questions that they would like to ask before we wrap this up. So if there are no questions, what I will share with you is that there will be a PowerPoint with more guidelines. And there's actually 6 pieces of the puzzle, which many of you might have seen before, but some of you might not have seen before. It will be included so that you look at all your puzzle pieces as you're trying to figure things out. The most important puzzle piece to look at is the person you're trying to help and the message they're trying to send and what could be going on with them and what you're going to do about what you think needs to happen, and how much you're willing to let go of and only get done what absolutely needs to happen, but with the right helpers around. So you're minimizing risk for that person, for you, and to get the task done minimally. But after you do it that way a few times, you may find you actually build a relationship with that individual. You may not. That person may never enjoy or want to have human contact. But those people tend to be rarer than the people who do accept contact once they understand sort of what our relationship with them is going to be. So thank you so much for being here today. And thank you for doing what you do every day and your willingness to ask yourself questions and your willingness to try something different. Because unless we start trying something different, we'll have way too many showers with Nick the first way and not so many showers with Nick in a way that's acceptable. We'll have made it into situations where people get hurt. And I'm talking about you, when we don't need you to be hurt physically. It's hard enough that you're being hurt emotionally, because it does hurt when somebody's trying to do something and the person you're trying to do it for doesn't want it. It feels like they don't like you. It's really important to remember what they don't like is what's happening to them. So what we'll try to do is vary what we do, but it doesn't mean we have the opportunity, we have the right to neglect, but it also means we don't have the right to abuse. So we're trying to find that survival ground. And for somebody, it's just about survival. It's not about thriving. And what we'll figure out is other times during the day, maybe when we can find a moment where we together can find something we like about each other, because this probably isn't it. So thanks, Corey, and thanks everybody for being here. And I hope it helps. Really appreciate your time and your attention. And thanks for sharing, because that makes a big difference, because we're really out here trying to make a difference in the lives of people who are trying to make a difference. So thanks to all of you. Take care.